What does it truly mean to awaken spiritually? And why does the soul seem to move through so many stages before it reaches the shining truth of God? When we speak of spiritual awakening, it is not a single flash that leaves you permanently enlightened, as many imagine. Rather, it is a gradual blossoming, a sacred unfolding, like the petals of a lotus rising out of the mud toward the light of the sun. The journey of awakening is the most intimate adventure of the soul, and it carries the seeker through many stages, each one both a test and a blessing, both a challenge and a gift. Paramahansa Yogananda often explained that the soul has within it the memory of God, the eternal pull of spirit, and yet the mind and senses resist, clinging to the illusions of the world. Awakening, therefore, is not a straight path, but a spiral that deepens and ascends through many realizations. The first stirring of awakening usually begins in restlessness. A man or woman may live in the world, surrounded by material comforts, yet feel a vague discontent, an emptiness that nothing can satisfy. Outwardly, they may appear successful, yet inwardly a question burns. Is this all there is? This holy dissatisfaction is not a curse, but the whisper of the soul reminding you that life is meant for something higher. Yogananda said that divine discontent is the beginning of liberation, for it shakes the soul from the sleep of habit. When you feel that nothing external can fulfill you, it is the first call of God, asking you to turn within. From this restlessness arises the search. The seeker begins to look beyond the familiar patterns of life. Books are read, teachings are studied, teachers are sought, prayers are whispered in the silence of the night. At this stage, the soul hungers for answers, yet is often confused by the many voices in the world. Some teachings may inspire for a while, others may disappoint, but every attempt brings the seeker closer to the living truth. Yogananda explained that even when the soul wanders through different philosophies, religions, or paths, it is being guided by the invisible hand of spirit. The very act of searching is proof that the soul has begun to awaken. The next stage is discipline. Awakening is not achieved by mere curiosity. It requires practice. The seeker learns to quiet the senses, to turn the attention inward through prayer, meditation, and self-control. Yogananda insisted that true freedom is not indulgence, but mastery. When you begin to control your thoughts, to guide your actions with awareness, to meditate regularly, you are shaping your life into a vessel that can hold divine light. This stage can be challenging, for the mind resists discipline, and the senses rebel like unruly children. But each small victory, each moment of calm in meditation, each act of kindness instead of anger, strengthens the soul's will and clears the path toward awakening. As the seeker persists, there comes the stage of purification. Old habits, hidden desires, subconscious fears, and karmic tendencies rise to the surface. The seeker may feel discouraged, wondering why so many inner struggles appear just when spiritual life has begun. Yogananda explained that this is natural. When light enters a dark room, it reveals the dust that was always there. The very presence of divine aspiration awakens the dormant impurities so that they can be released. In this stage, tears of repentance, acts of forgiveness, and sincere surrender wash away the stains of the past. Though it may feel painful, purification is one of the most blessed stages, for it lightens the soul of burdens that have been carried for lifetimes. After purification arises awakening of intuition. The seeker begins to perceive subtle truths not through reasoning alone but through direct inner knowing. Meditation deepens, the heart becomes calm, and moments of higher awareness flash forth. It may come as a sudden certainty in prayer, a vision in meditation, or an unshakable peace that descends in times of trial. This inner perception is the awakening of the soul's natural faculty of intuition, the voice of spirit guiding the seeker from within. Yogananda taught that intuition is the direct perception of truth, beyond the distortions of the intellect. At this stage, the seeker learns to trust the quiet whisper within more than the noisy arguments of the world. With intuition awakened, the seeker enters the stage of devotion. Love for God, once theoretical, now becomes a living fire. The heart longs not just to know about God, but to feel Him, to commune with Him, to live in His presence. In meditation, tears of yearning may flow. In daily life, the seeker feels the divine hand guiding even the smallest details. Devotion softens the ego and dissolves the walls between the soul and spirit. Yogananda often said, "Love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength." Devotion is that power which lifts the seeker beyond dry discipline into a joyous love affair with the infinite. As devotion deepens, the seeker discovers inner strength. Temptations lose their grip, sorrows lose their sting, and obstacles lose their power to shake the soul. At this stage, one begins to feel the presence of God even in difficulties. What once appeared as trials now appear as blessings in disguise, opportunities to grow closer to the divine. The awakened soul no longer reacts blindly to life but accepts with calmness, knowing that everything comes from the loving will of God. Yogananda called this the state of equanimity, where joy and sorrow are seen as waves on the ocean of spirit, never disturbing the deep peace of the soul. From equanimity arises illumination. In meditation, the seeker begins to taste the bliss of spirit. Glimpses of light, waves of joy, vibrations of peace flood the consciousness. These are not imagination but real experiences of the soul's divine nature. Yogananda explained that spirit is ever new joy, and when the soul begins to touch it, nothing of this world can compare. This stage transforms life entirely, for even brief experiences of God's bliss change the deepest values of the heart. The seeker now knows by direct experience that God alone is real, and everything else is but a shadow. With illumination comes surrender. The ego, which always claimed, "I do, I achieve, I suffer," gradually bows before the infinite presence of God. The seeker realizes that all is God's doing, all is God's gift, all is God's will. Surrender is not weakness but the highest strength, for it dissolves the barrier between man and spirit. When the soul offers itself completely to God, keeping nothing back, then the divine takes over, guiding every thought, every action, every breath. Yogananda often said, "Give everything to God, and He will give everything to you." This stage marks the true union of the soul with spirit, for the little self is merged in the great self. Beyond surrender lies union. In deep meditation, the seeker enters Samadhi, the state of oneness with spirit. Here all duality vanishes. There is no longer I and God, but only the eternal consciousness of bliss. The soul realizes it was never separate, that it has always been one with the infinite. Yogananda described this as the highest experience a human being can have, beyond words, beyond thought, beyond description. It is the fulfillment of all longing, the goal of all lives, the crown of awakening. And even beyond union comes service. For the soul that has awakened fully, life becomes a channel for God's love and wisdom to flow into the world. The awakened one does not withdraw from humanity but serves it selflessly, seeing in every face the image of the divine. Yogananda himself lived this stage, giving tirelessly, healing, teaching, inspiring, bringing souls to God. True awakening does not end in private bliss but blossoms into universal compassion. The awakened soul becomes a lighthouse for others, a living reminder of what all are destined to become. Thus, the journey of awakening moves through many stages, from restlessness to search, from discipline to devotion, from purification to union and service. Each stage is sacred, each necessary, and each divinely guided. The seeker should not compare his progress with others nor despair at difficulties. Just as a seed must pass through darkness before it blossoms in light, so the soul must pass through many experiences before it realizes its oneness with God. Paramahansa Yogananda taught that the stages of awakening are not rigid steps but living processes, often overlapping, sometimes repeating, always deepening. A seeker may taste devotion even while still struggling with purification, or glimpse illumination even before full surrender. What matters is not the order but the sincerity of the journey, the steadfastness of practice, and the burning love for God. Beloved seeker, know that you are already on this journey. The very fact that you ask about awakening proves that the soul within you is stirring, calling you to rise. Do not be discouraged by the seeming distance of the goal. Every prayer, every meditation, every selfless act carries you forward. God is not waiting at the end of the path but is walking with you at every step. Awakening is not something to be achieved in the distant future. It is the unfolding of the eternal reality already within you. Sit quietly, meditate deeply, love purely, and surrender joyfully. In time, you will find that the stages of awakening have carried you beyond time itself, into the eternal bliss of spirit, where the soul sings with Yogananda's words, "I am a little spark of that eternal flame. I am that infinite ocean of spirit, ever conscious, ever existing, ever new."